Welcome back, everybody. It's another Wednesday night at the Relationship Gumbo Podcast Live Edition. We are live on Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. I'm sorry, Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. And what you want to do in Periscope is the same thing as Twitter. So if you go there, it attaches to your Twitter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to do a couple things. Share and invite with your friends and family. This is going to be an important show tonight. And I also want you to think about, this topic of mental illness, and it's going to be very impactful to you, your family, your loved ones, your friends, your coworkers. So make sure you invite everybody on here. So what I'm going to ask you to do is give me about 30 seconds. I'm going to make sure that everything is propagating everywhere it needs to go. Make sure you chime in, comment, let us know where you're chiming in from, and we're going to get into the show. So stand by.
Okay, everybody wants good love, that's true, I know. Derek Jones about to break it down with the Relationship Gumbo. Welcome to the podcast. Ain't no doubt we all need this, ayy, cause better relationships need better ingredients, ayy. So if you want better relations, it's about communication, finding love, staying together. We all wanna make it better, yeah. Derek Jones, the host, your relationship coach. Thank you all for tuning in. Relationship Gumbo, ayy.
All right, we're back. We're going to get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. This show is definitely going to be an impactful one. We're talking about mental illness, mental health, and a real look at what it looks like from somebody who's actually dealt with it in real time. So what I'm going to do, for those of you that are here for the first time, this will be uploaded as an audio podcast So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause for 3 seconds. We're going to start the podcast. And then at the end, I'll pause for another 3 seconds. And then if there's time, because I know this show is going to probably take a good bit of the time tonight, we'll entertain some questions. Feel free to comment or ask questions throughout the show, and if it's pertinent to the topic, we'll add it in through the show, because I love engaging my folks. Glad you're here. We appreciate you, so stand by. And welcome to another episode of the Relationship Gumbo Podcast. My name is Derek Jones, and I am your host. I am a certified life coach, and engineer, a strategist, and a mental health advocate. And here, Relationship Gumbo, we believe that better relationships need better ingredients. And one of those ingredients that we need to make sure that we're good out here is mental stability, and making sure that our mind is right. And a lot of times we don't seek the help that we need. A lot of times we sit in silence and we suffer in silence, and we never really provide ourselves the opportunity to seek out the help that we need. So I have an amazing guest here with me tonight that's going to talk a little bit about his journey with mental illness, and the highs, the lows, and exactly what it looks like. And what I want you to do, audience, the listeners and the viewers, I want you tonight to not just hear what we are discussing. I want you to feel the content. I want you to connect with the content, because at the end of this show, I want you to leave more informed. I want you to leave with something to think about, whether it's yourself or one of your family members, because this is very serious, and I want you guys to take it serious, but I also want you to engage and enjoy the content tonight. So my guest tonight, Mr. Mark Harrison, just a little, like 30, well, maybe 20 seconds about how we met and how he got here. We met ironically through a mutual friend, and it kind of happened by happenstance. And, I'm always about energy and how things kind of happen for a reason. And we started talking, not really knowing that it would become this or even have this interview, but just having a like mind and a like mindset. It was a good idea to have him here on this particular platform. And we'll more than likely do some things in the future, as we talk. But it was very important for me to have him here, not just for him to tell his story, but for you guys to, like I said before, identify with him, his story, identify with the mental health and mental illness in general. So without further ado, I'm going to let him introduce himself, because he can do it way better than I can. So stand by.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Hey, let everybody know who you are, and more importantly, why this topic is important for you to kind of talk about tonight.
But before we even get on the topic, your intro was on point. You sure you're not a DJ in your other career? I like that intro, bro.
Thank you, sir. I try.
Yeah, that's right. while we're here, we're talking about mental illness and what it looks like. It actually doesn't have a look at all. And before we even get started on the look and the whole stigma, when I spoke last week about mental health, I got a lot of Facebook requests. Majority from men who said, "Thank you for sharing the story. I appreciate it. You kind of gave me the catalyst for me to go seek help." That's great. That's great. Keep up the good work. But again, part of dealing with your whole mental stability is going to go seek that personal help. I will let you know the journey is not going to be easy, but it'll be well worth it. And I'm not going to rehash everything that I talked about last week, but my journey actually began with a friend who committed suicide. He was dealing with mental illness, at least mental illness to what I think mental illness is. Again, I'm not a licensed clinician, but at the end of the day, I was his go-to person. We talked 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Every time the phone rang, I would answer it because I was scared because I didn't know where it was going to lead. But unfortunately, the last words that I had with him was, "I love you." And later on that day, he committed suicide. And that kind of just destroyed me. It took me to a place where I never wanted to go. And I really saw the importance of talking about issues within our community. More importantly, me. Again, we talk about it in the barbershop, we talk about it in the gym, but are we really truly understanding the importance of going to seek help? My journey with mental illness, a lot of people think, does it start when you're a kid or you're born that way? Does something tragic happen? It can be a combination of all the above. With me, I had some tragic situations happen in my life. I saw a friend get shot, another person get suicide, dealing with family issues in which certain people, to my opinion, this is my opinion only, are very toxic, but brought out certain feelings that I didn't even know that I had. Also being an Army veteran, they always want to label somebody coming out the military PTSD or whatever it may be. And that is what it is. And I got question, but that was my first time actually talking to a counselor. And I will admit, was the counselor beneficial to me? Heck no. It was a checkbox thing that the military does. It wasn't until I probably sat down and had a toxic conversation with somebody in my family. And it was very toxic to me. And it brought back feelings that I didn't even know that I had. And I just remember saying, "I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna block them. I don't care." Speak to them again. Took me to a place where I did not want to go. And I left the house. And part of my coping mechanism at the time was shopping. You know, it's crazy to hear. But I like to shop. That's how I dealt with my stresses. But this time my shopping was different. I went to the grocery store. I went to go find me some chocolate chip cookies. And somebody in the grocery store was like, "Baby, are you okay?" And when that person said that to me, I knew there was something definitely wrong. So I just had a conversation with one of my friends who happens to be a licensed clinician. But again, it's a conflict of interest. But she became my sounding board, you know, where I could cry, I could share things, no judgment, but I know it was hard for her. Another person was my older sister. Her and I have a lot of similarities, and the crazy piece is we didn't meet until 10 years ago. But some of the traumatic issues that we both suffered together brought about a whole nother issue in the mental health piece. So getting the help from me was extremely important. One thing I had to learn to do, and I want everybody to listen to this, staying quiet and to yourself is not beneficial to you or anybody else. And I want men to especially hear me. We think because you are a man, you got to be strong. You can't show any sign of weakness. You know, boys don't cry. I'm just going to tell you this on this show. That is bullshit. And the reason why I'm telling you that is this is why we are dying. Because we want into ourselves. And when I started to notice, it was affecting my friendships and my relationships as well. I didn't want to talk. If there was an issue going on, I'm just going to deal with it my own way. And And now remember, if you're in a relationship, you should be able to share any and everything with this person that you're with. Man, we don't do that.
Right.
You know, it was actually killing me deeply inside. I'm watching TV. Next thing you know, there's a happy moment on TV, and I start crying. I'm like, what the hell's going on? You know, this is a good moment on TV, and I am crying.
So real quick, let's back up a little tiny bit before we get to this point, because I see people coming in, and I always try to put myself in their shoes. So you said that you went to you saw a counselor or a therapist at some point. You had some tragedies, and then you ended up going to a counselor. Do you, at the point where you experienced those tragedies, like post tragedy number 1, post tragedy number 2, before you saw the counselor, in hindsight, do you recall some behaviors that you were doing through that time that might have seemed weird to you, but you just kind of brushed it off?
Yeah, I was angry.
Mm.
I had an aggression from I have no clue where. And my friends or associates would say, "Why are you so angry?" You know what I'm saying? Or why are you so negative? That was me acting out. That was me getting all that aggression out of me. And then I need to really figure out, why am I so angry? What is going on? It was part of my whole depression and anxiety of how I was dealing with things, being aggressive. And I'm not talking about physically aggressive. I'm more talking about with the actions of my mouth. Just angry. I am a straight shooter, but sometimes there were things I wouldn't even want somebody to say what I was saying to somebody. But I realized that was the whole anger and aggression piece. But also, too, what I was doing, part of my anxiety as well as my depression, it was easy for me to just throw people away. I didn't want to face or deal with problems. So it was just easier. Let me just get rid of this person. I ain't got to handle this. I ain't got to walk in my truth. I'm just going to go about doing my business. But the counselor actually helped me deal with that. And I'm not talking about the counselor I had to see as far as the whole veterans piece, because they didn't do anything. It was a checkbox, something that they say that they did. But it was my friend who is a psychologist, but she's my friend, So there's a conflict of interest, but she was still my sounding board. But when I started the whole mental health journey piece, and I talked to a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists along the way, and one of them said to me, "What are your triggers?" And here it is, it's a woman. And one thing I didn't want was to speak to a woman. I'm like, a woman, how is she going to help me? She's not going to understand. Let me tell you, this woman broke me down, to where I had tears coming out. But when I was done with her, I felt 110% better. In turn, what she allowed me to do was to understand who I was and that I need to be selfish for Mark. I wasn't being selfish for Mark. I was being the go-to. So with that, understanding what my triggers were, I started to repair some relationships. Relationships that I threw away. It was nothing on their own, but relationships that were actually good for me. And I realized I had to be that man and pick up the phone and apologize for my action. Now, the weird thing I'm not even going to say it's weird. The 2 relationships that I repaired are actually my sounding board now. And it's so ironic how we can talk about mental health issues, how we are men who are very vulnerable with each other, and there's no judgment, and it feels great.
Before you do that point, I have a question that's pertinent to something you just said about you saying that you didn't want to talk to a woman. So Spin City from Facebook says, "Why do Black men not like speaking to women?" I'm just curious.
Well, I can't answer why Black men don't like speaking to women. I can only answer with why Mark didn't want to speak to a woman. And I will answer that one of my triggers was my mother. So I didn't want another mother figure telling me about what my issues were. Because in my opinion, I saw that woman as being my mother. And Spencer, I'm also going to be honest with you. Black men don't have a problem talking to women. Black men have a problem talking, period.
Right. There it is.
Not just women, because in the beginning, I didn't want to talk to some of my boys about this. But ironically enough, my boys are the ones who are texting me offline saying, yo, thank you for sharing your story. Yo, if you need somebody to talk to, call me. So my response to them is, I've already shared my stories. Tell me what's going on with you. I'm not ready. Again, that's why we don't talk to each other. It has nothing to do with women. Just that my trigger, this is me personally, my trigger was my mother, So that's why I didn't want to talk to a woman. I didn't want another mother figure telling me what it is. But also too, Spin City and anybody else who's listening, another one of my triggers is my father. I'm raised in a 2-parent household. My mother had me when she was very young to a gentleman who did not take care of his kids. And that's a story for a lot of Black men out there. So me dealing with and also seeking that counselor, one of my issues was abandonment, So part of my anxiety and depression, when people were getting close to me, I would just mess it up because in my opinion, they were going to leave anyway, because that's what my father did. So I took that with me in my friendships and even in my relationships. And I can remember, and most of us remember that Will Smith episode on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, when his father came in and made him all these promises of what he was going to do, what he wasn't going to do. And he ended up leaving and say, oh, well, I can't do that. That was me. And that day when I saw that episode with probably 6 other dudes, all of us are sitting there crying because we're all dealing with the same issues and how it has actually impacted us through life. So I had to admit to the counselor that, my people who I thought were supposed to take care of me, and I'm not saying I grew up in a household where I was abused. I'm clearly not saying that, but the emotional piece was missing. So my anxiety was always wrapped around my emotions. How do I show emotions? How am I receptive to emotions? How am I able to just move on to the next level without even getting caught up in emotions? So that's what it is. It has nothing to do with why Black men. I'm only answering questions for me. Your situation may be different as well.
Right. Let me piggyback on that real quick. It's sometimes also with men in a situation of counseling or therapy, or even sometimes even a doctor, it's the fear of being judged. Like, we rather hear from a guy than a woman sometimes. And we think if we tell our problems to a woman, what would we look like in front of them? And that's that male. I always say my little quote is, don't let your pride stop getting in the way of you healing. You got to get over yourself sometimes and really just, allow the people that want to help you. But my piggyback on what you just said about your relationships and the emotion and the abandonment and all of that, the context here for people when you're dealing with other people, whether it's friendships or romantic relationships, just take the little bit of his story that he gave you so far. Think about that in a human being, in a male, in a Black male out here dating and being in relationships, and what that looks like when you're out here and you're like, oh my God, why is this person not showing me this or not showing me that? Everything has a story, good or bad. Everybody comes from a place. I always talk about everything has an origin story. So when we're out here dealing with each other, we don't even know what's wrapped in that package as we move and I've had points in my life where I was emotionally detached. And then I'm looking back at reasons why later, but I hurt some people along the way. I did just like Mark, I discarded a lot of people that I probably shouldn't have. And that behavior becomes so ordinary for you that you think if somebody questions it, that they crazy. Like, what's wrong with you? Until you actually take the time to sit down and see why the change? Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I doing this to people? And when you are in a perpetual state of doing that, it's painful to your environment, not just you, but everything around you, your kids, your family, your wife, your whatever it is. And so it's and we'll talk about this throughout the show, but it's important to be able to have that time to kind of self-reflect and look at what you've been through, because underneath all and have somebody that's probably more intelligent than you at figuring it out sit with you, or a friend or somebody, so that you can kind of figure it out, because you're destined to repeat the same history over and over and over again. And next thing you know, you out of here. And it's really about, we talk about legacy here all the time and what you leave here, and it's not all about money. You may leave a bunch of hurt folks in the wake just because you had too much pride to sit down and say, I need help. So, Mark, we're gonna segue into you. This is my question, but it's also, I think this is what some of them want to know too. When you so my question was, the friend that you had that was a psychiatrist, or she's in the mental health field.
She's a psychologist.
Psychologist, okay. Was she the person that you saw, or did she route you to something?
No. That's actually a great question. No, she is a platonic great friend. She just happens to be a licensed psychologist. And with her, it wasn't like I was talking to her because she was a psychologist. It was, this is a female. There's no type of sexual relationship. We are brother and sister to the end, and we can generally talk about things. And it was great. Would she give me her medical opinion? Sometimes, but mostly she was giving me, which is important. I want to make sure everybody understands. She was giving me a listening ear, and that was extremely important to me. And we talk every day. And prior to me even doing this, I kind of consulted with her along the way. And she's, what I am hearing from a lot of women, and I really want the men to listen to this, is thank you for doing this, because it is much needed. As men, we can't be afraid. And more importantly, get your pride out of it, because your pride will kill you in the end. I just want to let everybody know that. Now, do you need to share your story with everybody? No. I mean, I'm just doing this as a different platform because I saw the need. But you got to find somebody that you're comfortable with. And being comfortable with someone may take a journey, because who you think you can be vulnerable and comfortable with, 9 times out of 10, you probably can't. Because if that was the case, you would have done it a long time ago. And what I had to learn, some of my boys that I've known for 20-something years don't even know half my story. And that tells me right then and there, they were not saying that you're a bad person. They just weren't that one that I needed to share the most intimate things of my life. And it took a journey. It took me sitting down, talking to one. It was weird talking to the counselor as far as the VA. I was like, this chick don't even know what she's doing. I'm just another number or a checkbox as we went along. But preparing not for this show, but the show that I did prior to, talking to counselors who didn't know me. They just knew my voice and knew my name. And the men and women just breaking it down, asking me how I felt about this. How do you handle this situation? And I'm like, wow, no one's ever even asked me stuff like that before. Where I had that listening voice. And it's like, wow, they're giving me tools. They're giving me something that I can use to make myself better. And I want to share one thing. One thing that has actually been very, very beneficial to me. Remember, again, I'm talking about me, is the gym. I'm going to be honest, I hate the gym, but I love it also. Both of my trainers, but I'll talk about one that you will probably be meeting in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to say his name right now because I don't want him to get flooded with a whole lot of stuff, but he is a bona fide trainer. He trains celebrities. He trains a lot of people. The brother is phenomenal. So the first episode that I did on mental health, he told me, he was like, wow, bro. Yeah, he's one of my frat brothers too. Wow, bro, I didn't know that you were struggling. But funny enough, I used to be an addiction counselor. And I'm like, wow, bro, I never knew that. So he said, so I understand your issues and what you're going through, and I understand the triggers. So that really brought us even closer together. So there I found another outlet to where, yo, I'm having a rough day. I need to talk about this. And he will pick up the phone and call me. And that's what you want. You want a good network. I'm always going to tell people, if you got a network who are trying to deal with your issues of more than 3 people, it's not good.
Right.
You know, any more than 3 different perspectives is going to mess you up completely. And
So,
without
real quick, two things, because you know I'm it's the engineer in me. I want to see how things work under the hood. So, and I know this is something that I know will help someone that's teetering on the fence of possibly going to seek help or not. When you found the therapist that worked for you, I want to know. It looks like it froze, but it'll come back in a second. I want to know, when you found that therapist, the feeling that you had at the moment where you knew that was the one. Like, what was that moment that you was like, okay, this is it right here. This is where I'm comfortable.
Oh wow, that was where I can tell you where I was at. I was in my living room on the phone. I don't know what Master Chef or something was on TV. Her and I were talking. The original plan a long time ago was to have the first conversation with a therapist, licensed clinician, on the phone. I'm kind of glad we didn't have it, because we could have been talking for days. But after talking to a couple of people outside of my friend, this time I wanted a neutral party. And she was, I'm not going to say she was random. Again, here we go with another woman. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say she was random, but one of my friends owns a mental health clinic. I never do that. How crazy is that? Wow. So I'm talking to one of his clinicians, and we're kind of talking about the format of what's going on and how this was actually going to go. And one thing she said to me is, well, do you have a therapist? And I'm like, wow, no one's ever asked me that kind of question before. I'm like, why she need to know this? I'm trying to get this show done. You're asking me about, do I have a therapist? And I said, no. She said, well, I'm going to say something to you. Everybody needs a therapist. A therapist needs a therapist. And I question people who don't have one. So we started talking, and she kind of told me her reasoning of going into that particular field. Next thing you know, an hour later, I'm crying, and I'm just telling her my story. I'm like, what the hell's going on? You know, I don't even know this lady, but she was so comforting. It was like she was right there holding my hand, something that I needed. And I felt so comfortable. And we were done. She said, now, she said, this wasn't even supposed to be a session. How do you feel? And I said, it felt like 200 pounds were lifted off me. So when I did the first show, it's the craziest thing. I would say 98% of my friends said, are you going to be okay? And are you nervous? The answer was no, I'm fine. You know, like I done broke down to where you probably can't break down no more. And plus I had shared my story with so many people that I was okay with talking about it. And once I got comfortable in the barbershop talking, I mean, come on now, you know, that's like the black man's playground. You know, right. It made things a whole lot easier listening to barbers talk, or listening to strangers talk, even listening to people in the gym talk, listening to police officers talking about how they are struggling and how they are dealing. And I kept going back to me like, okay, I'm not in this by myself. So if they're talking, how many more men, how many more young adults, you know, teenagers are dealing with the same situation? And I can go back to, and Derek and I kind of had this conversation. I look at some texts that I've received since I've been doing this, and you can tell that people really want to reach out to me and have those deep, deep conversations. But one thing I said, and I am going to say it again, I am not that licensed clinician. I'm not going to give you that advice that you need from somebody who can separate themselves. You know, me being close to you, I'm giving you Mark's advice, and Mark's advice may not even be the right advice. Right. So even what I had to do is I'm now selfish with my time. And the reason why I'm selfish with my time is not that I don't love you any different. I am not trying to pull myself back into that deep hole of dealing with somebody else's problem. What I am going to do is I'm going to advocate for you. I'm going to tell you to call the National Institution of Mental Health. I'm going to give you all those resources for you to physically talk to somebody to help you. And that's kind of what I'm doing. But before, the Mark used to dive in deep. Hey, let's talk about this. Hey, let's come over. Hey, let's pull out that brown juice and have that man-to-man type of conversation. I'm not doing that anymore. And that's that I don't love you any different, but because I know that dealing with somebody's mental well-being is so critical that you need that professional help. And I purposely didn't go to school for that. That's not who I am. Yeah, I'm a nurturer by trade, but that is not my profession. So when I started receiving, and I had this conversation with Derek and a couple other people, I mean, my Facebook DMs and friend requests became flooded by a lot of men. It's weird. When I did the conversation last week, women were typing, "Oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you." Men did the total opposite. They went right to my Facebook page, wanted to share their story, and also just say thank you for doing this. I'm so glad I'm not alone. But I will say this to the gentleman who sent me a Facebook request, and I didn't look at this in a whole different way, who was smoking weed and had a gun, and I purposely blocked you. My friend, who is a licensed psychologist, that could have been his way of asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see that. I saw some young boy stuff. You know, I saw ignorance. I'm just going to be point blank with it. But hopefully, because he was on social media, one of his friends saw what was actually going on. I personally wasn't dealing with, because I didn't know. I just saw some young boy smoking weed with a gun at the table, sending me a friend request, and I wasn't dealing with that. I just saw just ignorance, you know. So I apologize, but hopefully his friends went out and got help for him. But fellas, we need to be able to have those conversations. We need to be able to ask for help. That is part of the most important thing. Now, I don't have a problem. Dick can tell you, we can speak upon hours alone, you know, of how we can uplift each other, what's going on. I'm looking at some of my single moms who have boys, you know, saying, how can we help them out? How can I be an advocate for them? Because the world's a different place, you know. When I was 15, 10, 12, you know, whatever the age is, you know, we were outside playing, riding bikes. They're not doing that right now. So how they internalize stuff is totally different. I am looking at a gentleman who's probably about 25 years old. After the last conversation I had, he called me and was like, you know, Mr. Mark, I'm struggling. And the part that scared me is I don't think his parents understood it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we really have to pay close attention. When patterns start to change, there's a problem going on. When people become very self-reserved, there is a problem coming on. People who know me, I'm very talkative. You know, I'm not going to say I like to be the life of the party, but you certainly know I'm in the room. But when I come quiet and reserved, there has always been an issue of something going on. So the gym has been a good way of me to deal with my anxiety. Talking to a certain group of people have definitely been
so that's my second question. The group of people that you kind of your circle, if you will, when you came to the realization through therapy or even maybe prior to that, the people that you confided in or maybe still do, were there people that were in your circle around that time that you might have tried to tell and they kind of brushed it off? Or were the people that you had in your, and I, you know, we won't say any names to make sure whatever, but I just want to, I guess what the audience probably wants to know is, was it difficult for you to kind of pour that out to people while you were going through it?
Good question. Let's talk about the word circle. Okay, we use that. If your circle ain't doing this, whatever, you need to change your circle or whatever. So in regards to that question that you answered, they were already, and I'm not even going to say circle. They were in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because you know, if you hit the circle the wrong way, it can turn into a square or whatever. They were already into my heart. Ironically enough, I've known since the second grade. You know, she's probably jumping up and down right now. TW. That's her initial. So we have known each other and we matriculated all the way through college. How ironic is that? You know what I'm saying? The other one is the licensed psychologist.
Right.
And how we met was crazy, but that's a whole another story. And the other one is actually there's two more. It's one of my boys.
Mm-hmm.
Him and I talk probably almost every day. And the conversations sometimes can be a little bit ratchet. Sometimes the conversations can be in depth. Today before the show, we really dug deep. It wasn't even about me this time. It was really about him. Again, being comfortable and being vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? And one of them is just, my homeboy. But there's people I've known for years. Yeah, we can drink that little brown liquor, whatever. And still really, truly don't even know who I am. They just know if I need something done, I'm going to call Mark and he's going to get it done, or Mark's going to know that person. And even with that, to keep my mental being together, I stopped doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I stopped doing if you need some type of advice or what is your opinion, this is how I do this now. If you need my advice and my opinion or my network, I'm going to charge you. And it shuts everything down. And I had to do that because mentally it was draining me.
Yeah.
And when I tell people mentally it was draining me, because when I needed that help, that listening ear or that advice, they weren't around. But again, me going to counseling, she actually told me, some people you're going to have to push to the side. And she said, you may not want to do it, but it's going to be well worth it. So I always tell people now, I'm 50. When I push it to the side now, there are no explanations. You know what I'm saying? It's about me. I am being selfish for me now. And those individuals around me are those people who I really take that time to enjoy each other, to share if I am having a mental breakdown. And I had one a couple of weeks ago off of a teenage TV show. And if anybody can remember what my trigger was, does anybody remember what my trigger was? One of them? Do you remember?
What, the Fresh Prince?
No, that wasn't a trigger. That was just something. No, my trigger was who? It was a person. My mother.
Oh, yeah.
It was a TV show that I liked. Okay? The simplest thing happened on the TV show. A son and mother hugged. It broke me down. Ironically enough, my friends knew to call me because they knew that I was watching that show and they saw it. So that's kind of what I am talking about. The time that happened, I couldn't get up. I wasn't going outside and running. I couldn't go to the gym. One thing that I don't do, and I had to learn this through the counselor, is when I'm in that state of where I feel like I'm going to be depressed or anxiety kicking in, I don't run to the bottle. I do not do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something I wanted to make sure that I didn't do, because some people will run to the bottle, and I've seen this with some of my friends. They run to the bottle to deal with it. That isn't who I am. That I don't choose to do that. No type of illegal substance will enter into my body because I'm having that mental breakdown. But me talking to the counselor, you get in that state of depression or your anxiety levels real high, do you turn to liquor or do you turn to some type of illegal substance? And I was like, no, am I supposed to? And she said, well, a lot of people do as a coping mechanism. Fortunately enough for me, that has not been my coping mechanism. My coping mechanism now is talking to one of my friends. If I need to call my counselor, I can actually call my therapist. We usually talk once a month, and I tell people I have one. We talk once a month, and I enjoy the conversation. And she applauds me for doing this because she always keeps saying it needs to happen. So this is kind of why I am doing it. there are a lot of mental health resources out there for a lot of people. One is the National Association of Mental Illness, naming is good. If you're in the DC area, there's the Department of Mental Health. There are a lot of resources and tools out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna splash it up real quick, and then I'm gonna do it again at the end of the show. I have a couple. There's many, but here's a couple right here. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, the NAMI Helpline, Crisis Text Line. Because Mark and I talked about this before the show. Some people would like the anonymity of just being able to initially just text, just to talk to someone to kind of segue into getting help. So there's a lot of resources out there, especially in 2020. Where you don't have to show your face if you don't want to, just for you to kind of get your toe in the door to getting that help. The other thing I wanted to touch on too about having those people that are in your heart, and some people don't even have that, right? So it's even harder. And like for me personally, when I just kind of thought about this week, when I feel like I'm like too much weight is on me, I kind of retreat, and I kind of exclude people, and I try to like fix it internally. And I have a friend, and he's probably going to watch tonight, but I have a friend, and it just dawned on me how important it was. But when I retreated from him years ago, I didn't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then we reconnected like it was like nothing happened. And then this past week, he said, I haven't heard from you. Are you okay? And that was when I knew that I was doing it again. And that one text let me realize that I was starting to go back. Mm-hmm. So I was able to kind of correct that path and get back on to where I was. And I normally don't, as men, we don't normally say this out loud to people, but that text was that thing that I needed to hear. Are you okay?
No, but it definitely is. I mean, I have a frat brother who texts me at least once a week. Hey, brother, I'm just checking on you. That means a lot. It is weird how you talked about how you retreat and you would go back to kind of like solitude.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also a form of depression, the whole mental health piece. I used to do that. I used to go into my little corner, almost like a line of situation with a little blanket sucking his thumb. I don't do that anymore. It has not been beneficial, nor has it been healthy for me. I can tell this, and I want people to hear me clearly, since I've actually been doing this and talking about it, I am probably at more peace with myself than I have ever been. I don't let small stuff. It's like it is what it is. Whatever. Let's just work together to build. I just enjoy like the wholesomeness, the freedom. It's kind of like I'm almost like a free spirit to where I let everything go, and I have those resources and tools to where I can actually, if I am in that breakdown, where I actually can go out and get that help that I need. And you never know, just the littlest things can make a person smile, but again, I want to really tell the men it's okay to go seek help. Don't let your pride put you in a place of solitude, because you will lose in the end, or your friends and family will lose. Mothers who are raising sons by themselves, find a good program who can actually talk to these young boys. And if they need to go seek some type of help or counseling, do it for your child. The results in the end will be totally, totally great. And I kind of wish that I did that, because, I grew up in a generation where stays in this house, what happens in this house stays in this house, or just take it to God. Okay, I take a lot of stuff to God, but sometimes I needed to be able to touch and feel somebody, have them talk back to me and say it's going to be okay. And it's weird when a couple of my homeboys will say, I'm not even going to say homeboys, that's just a loose term. that we use. I'm going to say a couple of my good friends. When they say "I got you, bruh," it means a lot. It means a lot. But that help is going to be extremely, extremely critical for your own peace of mind. And I am a witness to it. And I used to get upset, the aggression piece, when I would hear a guy say, "Men ain't going to talk." Now look at them.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and now this individual was asking me, "Yo, what you said was on point. You know, when's the next time you're going to do something?" I'm like, bro, you can't take your macho-ness out of the equation, you know, because you know, none of us are macho when we're dealing with the whole mental health piece or just trying to balance everyday life. I would say, even with the whole mental health piece, when it came to work, it didn't affect me because, which is so weird. I've seen people break down at work, and I'm looking at them like, what's going on? I think with me, because work was always so fast paced,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I was always kind of, I would say, so hungry to be the best, to make that next move. I didn't really focus what was going on with me mentally. But you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's those moments of silence that where we go into that deep, dark depression. So you know, it's like I said, it's okay. And I will say this: if you didn't get the resources that Derek put out, he's going to put them out again. And I don't mind sharing my story, but I'm going to tell you in the end, make sure you go seek professional help.
Right.
You know, it's going to be important to you. You will thank me in the end.
So I want to get to a couple of comments, and then I got another pertinent question too about a physical illness that you recently are on the other side of, but it's important to this mental health conversation as well. Jesse Love from Facebook says NAMI is free. Donations and memberships are available. They do Zooms as well. Tight Cole says people need people, good people that is, and pride comes before the fall.
Yep.
Jesse always says, Jesse Love says a man who gets counseling is a lot less likely to be abusive.
I agree.
So
I agree.
So let's talk. Let's briefly talk about a physical illness that you recently had, and now you're on the other side of it. I'm gonna let you talk about it.
Well, I'm gonna talk about two because you only know about one.
Okay, let's go.
I'm gonna talk about the first one. Many years ago, those who know me, really truly know me, know that I was paralyzed at one time. You didn't know that, did you, Derek?
I did not know that.
Yeah, and at the time when this happened, it was meningitis, and I went back to my school's homecoming, and I am not going to tell what school I went to, just that it is an HBCU. It's probably one of the best ones around. I'm going to leave it like that. I went back to my school's homecoming, and I generally would go. Sometimes I wouldn't, but this year I went. And at this time, meningitis was very prevalent in the city. I'm not even going to name the city. You almost got me with that one. So my friends knew that there was something wrong with me. You know, I kind of looked like I had been smoking or drinking. I was just tired, didn't want to do nothing. I didn't want to celebrate. You know, all I wanted to do was go home and lay down. Here it is. I'm at an HBCU homecoming, and you want to go home. You don't want to party. You don't want to be one of the frat brothers. Nah, I just want to go home and lay down. So I asked one of my friends the next day, and the reason why it was the next day, because I was going to a football game, and I had box seats, and I didn't want to miss that. I said, no, take me to the hospital the next day, because I don't want to miss this football game. Now I'm at the football game, and 3 blankets, and people looking at me like, what's wrong with this dude? So my friend, we go to the hospital. As soon as we get to the hospital, I collapse. Okay? You know, they run a whole lot of tests, you know, and they're telling my friends, glad you got him right here when you did, because he was almost at the point where he was getting ready to die. So if anybody knows anything about, there is a bacterial and a viral type of meningitis. And I had it, but meningitis paralyzes you from the waist down, to where you couldn't do certain bodily functions when you went to the bathroom. You always had to get some type of assistance to do whatever it is that you wanted to do. It is ironic enough. Mentally, that messed with me also, and I really didn't know it. You know what I'm saying? Here I is, I'm going to the bathroom, and I have to get a nurse's aide to help me, to clean myself. I mean, a grown man may like that if it's if it's some type of sexual encounter, but this was far from sexual. I just want to let people know that. I was, and I'm going through the whole rehab, and what I love and what I've learned, and I should have taken this with me years later, that your mind is a powerful tool,
Mm-hmm.
And I learned, like, every day that I was in rehab or in that hospital, my close friends were there. And I always tell people I was fortunate. I didn't have hospital food not one time in an 8-week period. Friends were bringing me bread. When I was in therapy, my friends were how to walk. It's like a kid, I am learning how to walk again. And what happened was, while in therapy, if anybody has ever seen, I would say, somebody use a walker, and how it looks easy, and I couldn't do it. I would collapse. And I saw this lady, she had to be about 7 years old. She was doing her thing in that walker. I said, there's no way in hell this lady who was in her 70s is going to show me up in this walker. I said, no, pride. Here we go with the pride situation. So I asked the therapist to put some music on. And this is a true story, and you'll hear. It can be verifiable if anybody wants to know. He put on Life Jennings, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Music motivates me. Soon as I heard the music, I was able to get up in a walker, and I was able to stutter step, per se. And, and as time progressed, you get better and get better and better. But one thing I told myself, I was not going to be in this rehab over the whole holiday Thanksgiving period. I walked out of there 2 days. Here's the key word, walked out 2 days before Thanksgiving. But what I did in order to celebrate this, that says life, which means is, and I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, if you see me in person, it may be on one of my pages. The tattoo represents I got a chance at life again, and his song is the one who actually got me up. Maybe about 2 years later, I actually had a chance to meet him. His manager, she said, what's that tattoo? So I said, well, it's not a man's name, I can tell you that. It's life, how I got my life back again. And I kind of explained the story to her. She said, oh my God, I want you to meet him. So I told him what was going on. And there's a picture, maybe about 4, I don't know when I put them on there, on my page of him and I talking. But he wanted me to do a video on his Facebook page of my journey and how music actually helped me. Okay, that's one. Yeah, that's one you didn't know about. About maybe 9-10 months ago, I was diagnosed with stage 2 prostate cancer. Another shock to my mental being. And it was hard. Again, I had to rely on other people. Again, had to put my pride to the side. People who were taking me to treatments, people who were cleaning my house, shopping, everything that you can possibly imagine, they did. But again, when you are going through something, that's when you find out who it is. But mentally, no one knew that I was suffering in silence. And when I say suffering in silence, when you left my house, or when they left, the deep depression that I was going to, and I called my doctor and said, I can't sleep. Can you prescribe something for me to go to sleep? I got prescription pills, your opioids. Mm-hmm. And what I was doing was, in order for me to even cope with this, I was self-medicating myself. No one knew. And in hindsight, I was committing basically a slow suicide process, and I had no clue because I was so much in that deep depression that I never thought I can get out. And what snapped me out of it was one day I told somebody, "Oh, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to win. I had enough of this. I don't really want to depend on nobody anymore. But we really all need somebody who to depend on. So I started to heal. I started to get better. Again, I had to change my thought pattern in my mind. But again, I was still self-medicating myself, and no one knew. It is so ironic. The doctor had no clue of why I kept renewing my prescriptions. So people pay very close attention to your doctor also, because there were certain signs that my doctor should have caught, but he didn't catch it. So as I'm self-medicating myself, then it gets to a point I'm self-medicating myself with it. I would get up at night, the room would be spinning, it would be dizzy. And one of my friends was like, you should never do that, yada, yada, again. Again, you're telling me what I shouldn't do, but you're not here to help me. So not being here to help me, sit me into a whole nother. Don't tell me what I can't do when I am reaching out to you saying, hey, I need your help. I just didn't say I need help. My actions were showing you that I needed help. Again, it was that pride situation. I rather that I'm self-medicating myself instead of saying I need help. Ironically enough, my friend who committed suicide, his first time he tried to commit suicide, he was taking pills. And here I am doing the same exact thing. And that's what snapped me out of it. It scared me. And when my friends were saying, like, when I saw you, I was scared. I don't know what to say. Have a conversation. I can still talk. But when I'm not going to say friends. When my associates would say, when I saw you, I was scared. I didn't know what to say. Mentally, did they know they were destroying me again? It's so ironic. The littlest words, I did not know what to say to you. I was scared for you. I wanted to cry. Here I am. You're putting me right deep into that hole. And that's when I realized I had to start pulling myself out. And those were the people I couldn't be around. So, yeah, I overcame that also. But again, as Derek uses the word circle, and it's a word that we tend to use now. Make sure you know your circle, or make sure you truly know the people who are around you. Everybody can't be on that journey with you. And sometimes you're going to have to be selfish for yourself. And I had to do that and realize that everybody is not going to be on this journey with me. And it's okay. Not that I don't have any love for you, just that we can't walk this path together, because if you are going to affect me mentally, I got to pull you to the wayside. So that's why those individuals who are very close to my heart, I hold on to that. They know when I'm having a bad day. And it doesn't have to be a thing where I'm going into a depression, but they kind of get me beforehand, or I know when they are having a bad day and kind of let me pull them out of that situation as well. Even talking to one of my homeboys today, just like, hey, I wanted to let you know that I appreciate you, and the reason why I had to repair this relationship, realize that our friendship was probably one of the best things that has ever happened to me. And our conversation, again, just opened up a whole umbrella, and it really made both of us feel at peace. But again, talk to people. Don't get upset if your friends or your associates don't understand your story, because not everybody is meant to understand your story. Understand that. And I had to realize everybody will not always understand or empathize with me. Some people don't have it in them, or some people are dealing with their own stuff that they just don't know how to help. And it's okay. That's not going to be everybody. But the people who have that degree and they are a licensed clinician, reach out to them. Are you going to like your first one? Maybe not. It may take 5, it may take 10 for you to really find the person that you are going to connect with. But again, the first step is you have to start that journey. If you don't, everything I'm kind of saying is really pointless. Here I am in my 50s, and I waited until this time in my life to realize, hey, I got something going on. And, I need my next 50 years of my life to be like this. So me seeking that help, it has been great. Derek has been absolutely phenomenal for me. One of my other frat brothers who is on there in South Carolina, he has truly been phenomenal. So it's the little thing. It's the little conversations. It's a little bit like, hey, bro, I get it. And when you hear somebody else's story, listen, don't add, because that's one of the worst things that you can do. If I'm telling you something, let me finish my story. Don't interrupt me and tell me what's going on with you. That's a key sign that actually can break somebody right back into that depression piece again, because they don't feel valued. Yeah. And you always want to be around people who are going to add value and make you feel valued. And I can honestly say right now in my life, I absolutely have that.
Yeah. I'm going to get a couple comments, and then unless you got to go, I got one more thing after that, and then we can wrap up.
Okay.
Jesse Love says, presence is powerful. It's painful when people aren't there because it can prolong recovery.
I agree.
Spin City says, ask the question to you, has his triggers changed, or is it still his mom?
My mom is still a trigger, but it no longer affects me, if that makes sense. And the reason being, and I'll say this, and how it's perceived. I've done work. It's not up to me anymore. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just my mom. It's my real father. I've done my work. You know what I'm saying? And I have made the statement, if we don't get counseling as a collective unit, continue to have problems. I'm no longer a little boy. I am going to speak my mind. But just because you are my mother and you gave birth to me doesn't mean that I have to deal with the nonsense and toxicity. I'm not doing that anymore. Do I love her? Oh, I love her, but I love me more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the other thing too that I want to add. Well, let me get these two comments, and then I want to add to that. Jesse says, exactly, I've heard that statement. They didn't know what to say, so they abandoned me. It sent me into a deeper pit.
Well, let me stop real quick with that.
Okay.
So ask Jesse this question. Based on that comment, Jesse, what are you doing now to deal with your mental instability? Are you seeking help? What have been your steps? Because to me, when somebody says that, that's a trigger. And it's almost like a cry for help. And I'm not saying that it is, but that brings kind of like a pause for me. So can you, I don't know how you can ask Jesse that question, or maybe
she can hear you. I'm pretty sure because I follow Jesse. She definitely takes her mental health seriously, and I think she even has some kind of, she does something with NAMI too. Like she has like certifications and stuff through them. Mm-hmm. So she's been doing the work, and for all of us, it's ongoing work. But she can definitely identify with a lot of stuff you're talking about. She's definitely been there. But I did want to make this point too. And it's a generic comment, and a lot of people know this, but I always like to reiterate it over and over again. When we realize that there are things that are causing us to be a little mentally, unstable, or depression or anxiety and these type of things, what I often hear about what people say is, well, what's the point of me going to get help? Because help isn't going to fix my mom, or it's not going to stop these people from treating me bad, or it's not going to make my job better. It's not to fix those things. It's to help you manage and deal with those things better that you probably cannot remove or separate yourself from all the time. It's to help you manage it better. It's not to take your mom and fix your mom for you or your.
The help is about you. It's right. About you. You can't fix somebody else. All you can do is fix you. And I had to learn that. It's about me. It's not about anybody else. How they choose to act, it has nothing to do with my mother. It's about people in general. How they choose to act is solely up to them. It's how you deal with your own situations, of how you are able to actually heal. And I had to learned that like I'm not angry anymore. There's no aggression. I'm at peace. If things work out relationship wise, friendship wise, I'm good. However, I have enough, and I say enough people around me to where things are stable and I'm at peace. So if somebody else going to get themselves fixed, that's on them. What it can do is bring more added value to our relationship. But again, if we're still in that, what happens in his house stays in his house, or the other thing that people like to say, ain't nothing wrong with me. Usually, if you got to say that, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
So I don't get into all that, and I'm not going to get into that with anybody ever again. Even I just got a text. Wow, bro, I've known you for 25 years, and you never told me none of that. I didn't tell you that as he's listening, and I want him to hear this because I didn't feel comfortable with you.
Right.
And then again, you're sending me a text instead of making a phone call. Come on now.
Right. Yeah. Jessie responded back to you. She says, "Oh, I'm a NAMI group facilitator, peer support, suicide prevention certification for teens and kids. I go to counseling too. Those people that abandoned me, I inform them of their impact. We don't have much contact, and I learned valuable lessons."
Yeah, and whatever works for that person works for that person now. But they always say some conflict is good conflict. Some conflict I'm not even doing anymore because it'll take me back into a state where I do not want to be. I was very fortunate to where I didn't have to take any medication. Somebody, one of my homegirls was like, "Well, I'm glad you're not Kanye West." That's an ignorant ass statement. I mean, come on now. Don't compare me or anybody else to somebody you don't know, and to two, you're not even trained to make that type of comment. In another word that we tend to use, "Oh, so and so is crazy." Come on, we got to watch the language that we
go around a lot of stuff like bipolar and all these other kind of things like it's nothing, and we really don't know what people are going through.
Right, and and if you don't know, don't say it. But for me, I was fortunate to where a stranger just said to me, "Are you okay?" And I knew that I had fallen deeply into something where I did not want to be. I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to the grocery store to get me some chocolate chip cookies. I'm fine. But apparently my face and my whole demeanor said something totally different, but it took me 50 years to get to that point, but I'm here and I'm happy and I'm at peace. So I think people like a Thomas White, I think people, like Derek, I think people like Brandon, and my friends, Trisha, Tedra, Mike, and Rob, and Frankie. Those have really kind of been my core, and it's the little things, and if I forgot you, I am sorry. They say never mention anybody's names, call me later about it. But those people that I just mentioned have really been the core of my stability. Yeah. And all of them actually is so where they know it because I've had those conversations. Just as a thank you, me and Derek talk every day, and we're shooting things off each other. And it's just little stuff like that. So, to my men out there, it's okay. Go seek that help. I'm going to be an advocate for mental stability among us African-American men because we are dying by the wayside. And this whole COVID thing didn't make it any better.
No.
For a lot of us. But I will say with me, with COVID, it's actually been good because if it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't be doing any of this.
Right.
So it gave me a chance to really sit down and focus on something. So again, I appreciate all the love that I've been getting on Facebook. I truly, truly.
It froze real quick. It should come back.
But I want to seek that help in the resources that you need.
And I do want to do a small piggyback. We're going to wrap up in a second here. you got to think this too, as you're here talking about and sharing and helping people, that the trajectory of all of that and having those specific friends in your life and you being able to say this story and being able to speak about it intelligently and helping people, even though the go through was rough.
Oh, it was rough.
Kind of see that there was a larger purpose for it, because you think about even if you just take out the friend part, right? Those friends that were there for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you took that out, this may look a little bit different than it does right now.
It may not look at all.
Right, exactly. And so I always talk about, whatever you believe or don't believe in, some things happen for a reason. Me and you meeting happened for a reason. And people that are on here watching, I say that to say, people that are watching, you're here for a reason, right? We have, we have people commenting. We have people that aren't commenting that are listening. We have people that's going to be on the replay. All of this matters. And you have to leave this conversation. You have to be a leader in your household. I don't care if you're the man or the woman. You have to be a leader and be responsible for the people that are in your path. Because if we don't look out for each other, this looks like a mess. It looks like a total mess, 10 years from now.
Right.
Let me get two comments, and then we're gonna wrap the conversation up. I'm gonna let you say your parting words of whatever you need to say here. Let me see. Jesse Love says we have to stop the stigma against mental illness. It ain't always what folks think. That's very true, especially in the Black community.
That's 100. Right there it is.
Spin City said that's awesome. We need more folks, brown and Black folks especially. That's very true. That's one of the reasons why Mark is doing what he's doing. It's one of the reasons why I do what I do. If we don't talk about it, people won't connect, and then people won't seek the help because there's no connective tissue there. And if you see that there's someone, that you're not the person to help them, but you could be that connective tissue to help them get the help.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse Love says it's Jesse and Spin City are connecting over NAMI because they're both affiliated with NAMI. See, there's something else that happened that you just never know how things work. Jesse Love says there's always a purpose. Doesn't feel good, but it will work for your good. That's very true. So Mark, I'm gonna let you have some of the last word. I'm gonna have the last word, but I'm gonna let you get it in. And just kind of tell people what your thoughts are on the topic or anything you want to say as we start to wrap up.
I first want to appreciate everybody who has been listening, feedback. Blessing. Again, if you know someone or if you are that person who is struggling with mental health, please go seek some type of help from a licensed clinician or call one of the resources that Derek has listed.
Let me put it up real quick before you finish so they can screenshot it if they need to. Those are just 3 resources. We all have access to Google. So you can kind of Google things that may be specific to your area. I think Maryland has like a 211 line that you can call for things. So you just search for it. But these are just some things that I pulled just in case you wanted to screenshot it while you're live here, so you don't have to necessarily go and look for it. So floor is yours, Mark.
And just everybody kind of be on the lookout for some other future things that we're going to be doing around mental health. We are kind of working on some other projects. This has really taken off, which is actually pretty good. My goal has always been to make sure people have the resources and tools, but realize that they are not suffering in silence, or they are not. We've seen some other things, some roundtable discussions with other professionals of how mental health has kind of impacted their careers and the ways of how they are actually dealing with it as well. I will say this, and I talked to several people what I really want to do somewhere in the future, and I'll kind of wrap it up real quick, is have my mothers part of a panel discussion who are raising boys who are dealing with mental health illness as well. That's going to be very, very critical. And I don't know if many people notice, I have been fortunate to do a PSA with a local, well, it's not local, it's a national Black television show. I can't say the name yet because they are still editing it. However, I did see the first cut version today, and it will be released on a national Black network. I am not allowed to say the name, but you can kind of figure it out because there's not many
Right.
that will be released. Illness in the Black community, and I was actually given the opportunity to participate in it as an actor. So I truly, truly appreciate the person who kind of was the catalyst for that. But again, people, just go seek help. And if you need somebody to talk to, I'm not the person because I'm not a trained licensed clinician, but I can advocate for you and help provide the resources because again, it's about saving lives and especially stopping that stigma and the silence in our community. We are all put here for a purpose, and it's time that we start living in that purpose. So again, thank you, everybody. I truly appreciate it. You will definitely be seeing me again in the next upcoming week with a crew of people this time.
That's right.
We are working out some other things, so stay tuned. It's only going to get better and bigger. Again, much love. I appreciate you.
So I got a question for you that you probably don't want to hear. Is there any social media, anything that you want people that want to reach out to you can?
No.
That's what I thought.
No. Well, no, I'm not going to. If I'm going to be, and I'm going to be candid with that, okay? Don't hit me up looking for a date. It's not happening. It's not happening. It's not. It's not. I mean, I understand that social media is our new match game, and that's cool for some people. But if you're reaching out to me because of this mental health piece, let's focus on that. And I'm really not trying to focus you coming in a back door per se, looking for a date or some type of something that's not going to happen. I am happy where I am. Nobody will interject or interfere with what I have going on. Hit me up. But anything of you're cute, you're handsome, ooh, you're sexy, that's not happening. And I'm going to be candid with that and just put it out there. And I know it can sound kind of aggressive, but some of the DMs that I've gotten have been very, very aggressive. And Derek can tell you I have blocked many of people. It's about helping people. I'm not looking for a date. I'm just, and if I am, if I like what I see, then I'll respond. And as you see, a lot of people I don't even respond to. Not because I'm being shady, but I'm not put here for that. I'm put here to give you the resources and tools. And I do it. People meet people how we meet people, and I'm all about it. Yeah, I've seen some nice looking folks on social media, but I'm happy in the place where I am, and I want to keep it there. The social media is never going to interfere with any relationship that I have going on. Yeah. I appreciate this. I told Derek and a few other people, over 250 Facebook requests. And I think, yeah, all these people really are on this mental health kick. A lot of you are. There were a few percentage of you out like, no, this ain't cool. And I told them it ain't cool. But again, let's focus on what's important. Your mental well-being. Yeah. If it's about a date, if it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. If it doesn't happen, no shade. But I'm happy where I am. But again, I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I did that for you. I asked that question for you, and I know in my inbox will be blowing up. But how do I get in contact with him? So now we We wrapped it up for everybody that's listening. No.
Just well, I guess, geez, you kind of put me like Thomas did last year. Just you can do my social media. I'm going to give you, if you follow me on Instagram, it is, wait, what is my Instagram name? It is Kappaman1911. That's my Instagram page. It is private. But if all looks good, you know, I'll let you in. And my social media is, you know, what it is now. I think it's Mark A. Harrison, parentheses, Pops, which is Popps, which is a nickname that was given to me in college. So if anybody asks, it has nothing to do with this gray hair right here now. It was a nickname that I got.
Right. So I have a question before we really wrap up. That I could probably answer for you, but I'm gonna let you answer it because it's about you. Latasha from Facebook says, so let me understand. There is no contact information should someone honestly want to receive support.
Well, if you really want to receive support, you call one of those resources actually posted, not a clinician. If that's the question that she's asking, if they're what is somebody contacting me for? That's the question I really want to know. Are they trying to find a mental health provider? You know, I need the question to be clarified a little bit more. If we're Facebook friends, you already know how to contact me. You know, but if you need the help, the resources, and the tools to deal with mental health issues, and I'm sure Derek can post it again. Those are the sites that you can actually go to. And if not, I actually have them also, and I can give them to you as well. But having a really in-depth conversation with me about your mental health concerns, I will choose to decline that because I do not want to provide you with any incorrect information or mislead you in any way. I didn't go to school for that. I went to school for journalism. You know, I had careers all over the place, and that's what I am. But as far as giving out that strong clinician advice, no. But if you want to just shoot the breeze, we can shoot the breeze. But anything around mental health, I am going to direct you to the resources and tools that you need. And that's the best way that I can answer that question.
And so let me piggyback on that because now the questions are coming. So the format here is that Mark is sharing his testimony. He is providing a place for people to kind of, whenever he does these type of things, for people to kind of hear his story, identify with his story, and if they feel like they may need some more help, then they can reach out and try to find a therapist. He's not in a position to field everyone's questions about therapy or what should I do, because he has to be in a position to protect his own mental health. So the direction that he would give is the same direction that I would give when I do this right here.
Oh, yeah. Let me say one thing before you post that. One thing that a mental health counselor has told me, and one thing that I learned that they do, they set boundaries. And I didn't, that was weird for me. I thought they were in that clinician role 24/7. And they're like, no, we set boundaries. You know, a lot of them at 5 o'clock when that workday is done, they know how to shut it off. You know, and I was like, wow, you can do that. They was like, yeah, because if we don't, we bring it home. You know, and also too, you got to remember, a clinician is a human being also. They're dealing with their own stuff as well. So they're able to separate the two. And that's what I had to learn to do, is actually separate the two. And I've gotten pretty good at it, even with my, my homeboys or homegirls who are calling. And once I see them going down a whole nother road, I had to stop with, hold up. You know, don't bring this conversation to a place where you and I really don't want it to go. But if you want to go there, this is who you need to call, and they appreciate that. And they appreciate that because no one was giving them that information. You know, we all can be a listening ear, but I had to learn based off what my therapist was saying, separate the two, protect your peace. And that's what I'm doing. But people can still reach out to me on Facebook, because I'm sure a lot of people's stories are no different than what mine were. I just now have a platform to where I'm actually sharing it. But again, just there is always somebody there who is going to help. Don't think that you're doing this by yourself, because you're not. I thought like that for so long. That's it. I'm good.
Gotcha. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start to wrap this. We're gonna wrap this up. I thank you, sir.
Oh, I thank you, and I thank everybody.
And like you said, we're gonna see you again. We got some things in the works that we're talking about and working on to try to bring you more value and more information so that we can help. We will both champion, this whole mental health awareness and bringing this to you guys in a way that's digestible to you, so that the people that need it can hear it and actually go take those steps to seek help. So, you guys, I always have championed mental health even from the beginning, even though I'm focusing on, relationships. Mental health is a big part of how we connect with each other. So, so this is good. We're going to do it again. And to everybody that's watching, everybody that's listening on the audio, I appreciate you. I thank you for coming. Make sure you come back next week, because we're going to have another amazing show. So stay tuned. Y'all going to really, really, really love this next show. I'm a hold it until I put the flyer out, but y'all going to really want to come back next week. And because there's somebody that you guys have seen before and have asked about it, he's going to come back, but I'm going to keep it hush for a little bit. So on that note, we're going to get out of here. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.
All right, everybody. Have a good one. Be safe.
All right. The podcast portion is over. And
look,
we didn't have a ton of questions.
Are we off?
Not yet.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're going to close out, guys, and we'll see you next time.